Kids learn about money from their parents. They know whether you tend to save up for fun purchases or pull out the credit card when temptation strikes. Since they're learning from you, talk to your kids about using their money wisely. Start by admitting your own mistakes, talking about your family budget, and discussing the importance of sharing some of your money with causes that are important to you. There are gentle ways to help them become wise stewards of their own money. To learn more, go to stcumoney.org.
Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business radio talk show with your host, Ryan McNeese. Business Talks is brought to you by STCU. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome back to Business Talks this week. I'm Ryan McNeese, and we're here with Marc Heimbigner, corporate storyteller at Itron. Welcome, Marc.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. You know, each segment, what we try to do is bring somebody on that either is working within an organization or owns an organization, but really the key is doing something interesting. And I think, Marc, the reason I was so excited to have you on the show is the epitome of telling the story. Your job is really flying all over the world and or locally telling the Itron story.
It is.
Tell us about that.
It's exciting. It's not exactly something I had planned on, to have it work out the way that it has. But it's definitely turned into something that's exciting, and I get a lot of enjoyment and reward out of. I get to go around and help tell not only the Itron story, but our customers' stories, and what they're doing in various projects around the world. I've told a lot of our employee stories to one another and within the company, and then a lot of the high-level corporate message too. So
and I think a good point in terms of telling the story when you said internally as well. I think the background and the story is just as important sometimes to the culture of the folks that are working at Itron or another organization, as well as to the customers on the external.
Oh, absolutely. That background and that kind of shared, that common ground of why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, the customer perspective is great, and our employees gobble those up as well as
right.
do our customers and our partners. But when we can all get behind the cause and the purpose of why we're doing it, it helps rally everybody. It gives us that common unified purpose
right.
for what we're doing. And so being able to tell that for our employees has been a real highlight and something that I've really enjoyed.
Well, and I think most of our listeners would agree Itron has been very involved within our local community for a long, long time. So whether by that I mean various community events, et cetera. Not only are you guys global, what you do locally is important. Why don't you try to differentiate a little bit between what you guys do locally and maybe what that story is, as well as I know you spent quite a bit of time in Europe over the last year telling the story abroad.
Well, at the highest level, the story is pretty consistent, right? I mean, we are a technology and services company dedicated to the resourceful use of energy and water. So what that means,
what does that mean?
Get past the marketing speak here for a second, is that the way that energy and water are delivered, managed, has been historically the same for a very long time. And the world around us is changing, technology is changing, and these resources are very, very finite, but there's increased demand. The population is going to be 8 billion people in, another 10 years or so.
That's shocking.
But there's these big challenges facing the providers, utilities, other companies that provide electricity, gas, and water. And so what we want to do, and really what this whole notion of resourcefulness is, and how that comes into play in that marketing speak I just gave you, is really that we want to make the most of those resources. And so resourcefulness it's integral to who we are as a company. It's when we're as resourceful as we can be as employees, that helps create a more resourceful company, which then the resourceful company can help create more resourceful companies, so those utilities, and then our customers, and then that helps create a more resourceful world, and it's really making the most of all of those resources.
Well, and I think as you're describing it in that schematic, if you will, it sounds like obviously boots on the ground engineers obviously are working on aspects of that resourcefulness, and then the employees and the information system. So it obviously a complex schematic as in terms of that flow of being resourceful.
Right. There's an awful lot at play. Yeah, we've got hardware, software, services. We do installations. We can do everything that the utility might need within that within a given project. But yeah, so we've got a little bit of everything, and we've been doing it for a long time, and we've been doing it really well. We're founded in 1977 over in Hauser Lake, Idaho.
So founded here locally.
Founded locally, yep, absolutely. Kind of an offshoot of, at the time, Washington Water Power, now Avista. As a way of a group of engineers basically wanted a way to read meters more efficiently, more effectively. I know you've had your.
I had a little experience of that. One of my college jobs was reading meters at Washington Water Power, now Avista.
Right,
so.
but at that time, it was guys again walking out into the field, but with a ledger and a pencil or a pen, and going up to a meter and reading it physically. And
I think I had one of the first handheld Itron handheld meters, I believe.
Right.
And what I always thought was interesting about it, obviously it was very effective for the time and otherwise, but is obviously which neighborhood he's supposed to be in, which house he's supposed to be in, and more importantly for the meter reader, which house had a bad dog.
Right.
And so as
safety thing.
As an 18-year-old wandering into backyards to read meters, you got to be aware of those things. So that technology was important even then.
Right. And it's just been an evolution from there, right? It was taking kind of the paper out of the meter read at first, and then it was developing. We built the world's first handheld computers, some variants of probably what you were using out in the field.
Yeah.
Moving from there into more automated meter reading, you had things reading from either you just walk by, you wouldn't even have to key it in anymore,
vans driving down the street,
to things sitting on pull tops that are then just pulling reads as needed.
That's incredible.
All the way now to the fact that we have, in the meter that sits on the side of your house, there can be a processor that's as powerful as the first iPhone.
Unbelievable.
And so not only is it able to run a metering, say, application where it's, reading the meter and electricity usage and all that stuff, but a whole bunch of other things that can be added to it to help, make the utility more efficient, but also better engage consumers. You and I, how am I doing? How much energy am I using? Rather than just getting a bill at the end of the month and being surprised and going, okay, well, I guess I got to change something next month.
And always just wishing it's lower, rather than know how you can potentially manage that.
Exactly. Giving us as consumers that sort of insight to make the kind of changes that we want to make.
It is the norm now if a development, new housing development, as you described, whether that technology is in the meter itself or on the pole, as you indicated, that just transmits back. Is that the norm? And so you're having to bit of reconcile these different technologies.
It's norm's an interesting and subjective word, right?
Yeah.
But we would love it to be the norm. The reality is that the way that utilities are structured, the way that they run rate cases, the way they work with commissions, and all this sort of stuff. There's no real standard, and it's kind of each to their own, right? What works best for their operations, what they've accounted for, how they've built their rate structures to accommodate not only their operations and maintenance, but how they actually run their business.
Right.
So ideally, it would be
that'd be
a nice smart meter with all that sort of stuff on it, because there's so many possibilities down the road with what you can do with some of the technology that we're providing now, and in particular. But also these things are built to last. A typical meter is expected to have a useful life of 20 years. So try to get that out of your phone.
Right.
iPhone.
Can you imagine?
I
was going to say, can you imagine the iPhone 6 or 7, and that you're going to have that for 20 years?
It's just so the intelligence and the ability of what you can do on the meter itself has to be baked in, and so it's got to be a little bit of future-proof that way, and that's really what we're doing right now.
That's actually a really interesting concept, because with technology, there aren't many things that you could go back to 1992, 1993, 1994 with the advent of the internet, and say, well, this will be as I said, the norm or the standard for the next 25
tape.
It's your 8-track, etc. And another point, I think another point you're making also that's very true is you might be in urban areas and have the resourcefulness, etc., to have some of this modern technology, but as you migrate out into rural areas, whether it be here in the United States or otherwise, it really makes sense what you're saying, that you have to have multiple ways of transmitting this data. Multiple technologies, multiple
Lots
ways.
of different ways to get it back and
Right.
to use that then to make the utility both more efficient operationally, but then to also, again, maximize the use of those resources.
Yeah.
So we're not wasting electricity, we're not wasting gas or water, through leaks and stuff like that. So
Well, and jumping back a little bit, I think in even your story, though, the fact that you're I call it the chief storyteller, corporate storyteller of Itron, I think your educational and actual job history really lends itself to this current position. You've been a writer for a long, long time in different areas.
Yeah, I went to school to be a writer.
Yeah.
I joke a lot at work that I do the words, and it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, because now you're doing the words
really
and the images.
Exactly, it's what it boils down to. But yeah, I did. I went to school to be a writer. I've always liked to write and to tell stories, usually with a pun somewhere worked into them. And, awful joke to make my dad cringe, but I got my sense of humor from him.
Yeah.
It's always been something that I've loved to do, and I've been fortunate. In the 16 years I've been at Itron, I've gotten to write just about anything and everything at different times. PR experience, doing presentations internally and externally, doing emails, web copy, advertising, product marketing, corporate stuff. Now it's all about all of those things, but it's really more focused on, okay, well, how do we, what channels do we need to hit, and what
Right.
audiences are we trying to target? So it's kind of taking that broad brush of everything that I've done, and then working with our teams to really find the right message and the right audience and the right channel.
And how to communicate that message.
Yeah.
I've always found it interesting that you've had a lot of experience with technical writing too,
Right,
which is a different animal sometimes than telling a video narrated story.
Yeah.
The technical writing being that potentially here's how to use this product, and who is the audience, trying to understand how to use that product. But now, obviously, as a corporate storyteller, you're taking, as you're saying, all of those combined experiences and job descriptions and putting it all together.
Right. Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's I hope what's coming out.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why we're
Yeah.
excited to have you here, because I think you're having a lot of success with that. I really do. And on that note, let's take a short little break and come back and talk a little bit more about what Itron's doing here in the community.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Marc.
You bet.
In touch, online all the time. SpokaneTalksOnline.com.
What is a credit union? It's a cooperative, like a food co-op or a housing co-op, but the members share money. Credit unions offer the same services you'll find in a bank, but they're different from banks. First, credit unions are owned by their members, and credit unions are not for profit. Any money the credit union makes goes right back to the members in the form of low fees and good rates. To learn more, you can go to STCU's blog at stcumoney.org.
What is that you're holding? The Spokesman Review? Is it really even a factor in driving customer traffic anymore?
Yeah, sure is. Here, close your eyes and imagine a few people with $5 bills in their hands standing outside the door of your
Okay,
business.
I see them. I like it. People with money. What's your point? $5 isn't that much.
I know, but what if there were 300,000 people in
Yikes,
front of
okay.
your door with $5 bills in their hands?
Well, now you got my attention. That's $1.5 million. 300,000 people. Where'd they come from?
Yeah, that's how many different people read the Spokesman Review every week in print, online, or on their mobile.
Wow, that's impressive.
All you got to do is invite them in. Run some ads.
The Spokesman Review has 300,000 readers a week? That's amazing. I had no idea.
Most people don't. That's why we're running this ad. In print and online, the Spokesman Review delivers customers for your business.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, we were chatting earlier about what's going on globally, what's going on locally with Itron. Let's chat a little bit about what's happening right here in our own community. I know Itron's a part of many, many different organizations. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Corporate philanthropy is a big part of who we are, and we encourage all of our employees to get really involved in whatever causes are really near and dear to their hearts. That being said, we also have kind of an overarching corporate philosophy and things that we want to be involved in that really emphasize and support our corporate goals and mission and vision. One of the things that has really kind of risen to the forefront over the last several years is STEM education. So the utility workforce, by and large, the people that we're equipping with the tools to better manage these energy and water resources, are aging. It's a good job. It's people that have gotten into it and stayed in it forever, and now there's going to be this turnover where all of this historical knowledge of how the utility has been run is going to kind of trickle off. It's going to retire, and there's going to be this big skills gap.
And do we have the workforce for those jobs?
But we also need a new workforce, a new work skill, I should say, not a workforce. But I mean, the way that the technology is changing, you kind of need to come at it from a different angle. You need some new skills, and so there's this gap, and people in our industry are worried about that. And so one of the things that we've undertaken as a company is a STEM education program. We've partnered with Dr. Michael Weber out of the University of Texas at Austin, who's he's a guru when it comes to the energy and water nexus. He calls it, the way that these two things intersect, and the importance of power and water to community health and vitality. And he's actually written a curriculum aimed at K through 12 students, that more towards the 8 to 12, but really it can be adapted. That is STEM based, that talks about energy and water and the importance of it, and how it, not only how it goes through the system and where it ends up, but a little bit about how important it is and how future technology can help manage it better. And so obviously that's right in line with what we do. And so we've sponsored this curriculum, and we're building out a program to actually introduce that to hopefully first here students locally and school districts locally, and then take it across the U.S. and eventually globally to help educate those kids that are just getting ready to go into college and to university.
Yeah, picking and choosing where they want to.
What do I want to do? What am I interested in? And hopefully create some excitement and some impetus behind that to get more workers involved in this thing, as it's so important.
Well, we had Ben Small, Central Valley School District, was on the show a couple weeks back, and he spoke passionately and does quite frequently about the STEM programs at the high school level. And so I know that's near and dear to what Central Valley School District and Spokane Public Schools are doing as well.
Right.
Are some of those programs that you're talking about, will that be worked into direct communication between Itron and the school districts here locally?
Yeah, it's kind of through Dr. Weber and some of his resources as well. We're basically sponsoring all of it. It's a tricky, delicate line to walk with.
Yeah, collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. But with being a corporate entity versus the school system, so there's a lot to do there. But we're involved and really excited to see it roll out. We've already published the app. There's an application, free download to iPhones or the Android market, that you can go and you can actually walk through the curriculum. It's interactive. It's got games. It's got things to help kind of tease up the imagination a little bit and show what's possible. But ultimately, what we want to do is take that and get it in front of educators and help them build that curriculum to work into their yearly lesson plans.
Well, I think you said earlier in the show, trying to create an overall workflow or schematic of resourcefulness within the industry, within Itron.
Right. That
obviously seems like a perfect nexus to further that goal.
Absolutely. It's a cornerstone.
So, in terms of telling the story of Itron, how does one go about doing that? I mean, obviously a broad brushstroke there in terms of is there one way to do it, many ways to do it? What have you found might be more efficient?
For me, I think that it was a lot of luck and happenstance. Hopefully not all that. A little bit of hard work in there too. But I was very fortunate to get a very broad experience across Itron and different facets of what we do, and I think that ultimately lends itself really well to telling the story at the corporate level that I do now. But I would say, all of those different opportunities, that all came from a yes. It was being open to maybe doing something that I wasn't exactly trained for or classically trained for, but being able to say, yes, I'll take it on for the experience and to learn from it. And all of that over time, that snowball effect is incredibly powerful. And I think when you're trying to tell a story, you need that broader view, and you need to be able to, build on and draw from experience. But I think the other thing that's integral to telling any kind of a story really well, and I will be the first to admit I'm not a great storyteller. This is what I do for a living, but I think first and foremost there's a desire and a recognition that everybody's got a story to tell.
Isn't that the truth?
And whether that's a corporate entity, whether it's a team, whether it's an individual, everybody's got a story to tell. And so I think if you have that kind of innate recognition of that, like you do, that's what makes something like this powerful, because it's that willingness to listen and to draw that story out and to help that person. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it takes a little more coaxing to get that out. But if you can do that, the writing and the videos and all that other tactical stuff can be trained and it can be refined and educated around. But I think there's kind of got to be a little bit of a draw and that innate spark to say, look, I want to know.
Right. I think it's that overall, I'll use the word curiosity.
Yeah.
You either kind of have it or you don't, in the sense that, are you curious about these stories that are going on either in the cubicle next to you, the department next to you, in the countries next to you? And I think that's what I'm excited about seeing what Itron's doing is I would only imagine that the amount of folks that are working right here in Spokane at Itron, if you went around the room, if you will, or around the departments, the stories within the culture you guys already have developed would be fascinating. Because as you just said, everybody has a story. And if you can flesh out those stories and how they cohesively work to form the different departments at Itron, it's pretty exciting.
And that's where there's that rallying cry, that thing that we all can connect to, and that's that idea, that theme of resourcefulness.
Have you found that as you're trying to tell the stories at Itron internally, have folks been fairly excited to do that, or found a little bit of both?
Like anything, there's kind of there's a early adopter and an excitement phase, and then there's a little bit more of a push phase, and then after a while and after people kind of get comfortable with it, and some of those later adopters, then it becomes more of rather than a pull, it becomes a push. People get on board, they get excited about it. We do a weekly series right now that's all about resourcefulness and connecting our employees to customer projects and successes that we've had. And so it's been going on for a year now, and I would say early on a couple of good reviews, and then more and more and more, but it was drawing people into it, and now they're throwing stuff at us. They want to be a part of it. They want, hey, have you heard about this? It kind of starts to, again, snowball on itself.
And obviously that helps you too. Whereas you were having to maybe work a little harder to dig out this story or that, they're coming to you. Right.
Interesting. It's a great problem to have too much content.
And it sounds like, in terms of the connectivity to our community, Itron has actually historically been known to be very involved in our community. Do you find that the employees of Itron are excited to be out and be involved in these different events?
Absolutely.
It doesn't sound like you've had to push or pull too much to get that type of involvement.
No, exactly. Like I said, and we're very supportive of whatever their interests might be or wherever they might lie. Encouraging employees to go out and get involved. I mean, we had 20 people at Tom's Turkey Drive yesterday.
I saw some social media pics. That was great.
Yeah, handing out turkeys and supporting all that. I mean, we've got people doing a range of things and organizations all over town and really all over the U.S., all over the world, and it's an exciting part of what we do, and it's really fulfilling
Was the
see people.
Was the turkey drive at the arena?
It was.
Okay.
It was. Well, the part that we supported, at least, that was the distribution day, I think is what they called it. So, yeah.
Well, it's just interesting to see how expansive Itron has become. I think you indicated started in 1977. Hauser Lake?
Yeah, and yes, we'll say the back of a garage.
Okay.
But essentially, kind of the ideas, what they were trying to solve, sketched on a napkin, classic.
Yeah, that is a classic founder
story. Right, exactly.
And let's talk about how expansive it has become. You are overseas, obviously.
We are.
Tell me a little bit about that as we have to wrap up
all
today.
corners of the world. We've got over 70 locations around the world in almost as many countries. We've got over 8,000.
70 different countries?
Yeah, not quite that many.
But quite a few.
But quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Yeah, we've got a few offices where we have more than countries where we have more than one office. We've got 8,000 employees all around the world. We've got over 8,000 customers, utility customers, and municipalities around the world. Almost $2 billion in revenue last year. From a spinoff from Avista, Washington Water Power, in 1977 to today. I think it's a great success story for this area.
Well, it's a fascinating story, and given that you are the corporate storyteller, I think you have a lot of material to work with. And it's exciting to see that a company can be started essentially in a garage and on a napkin right here in Spokane County or Hauser Lake, and has grown to almost 70 countries and 8,000 customers. And when you start talking in the billions for revenues, that's pretty exciting.
It's super exciting.
Marc, I hope you'd come back and chat with us again at this table as the story progresses. We appreciate your time today.
Yeah,
thank you so
Ryan.
much.
Appreciate it.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.
If you're like many shoppers, you love to find a deal online. Or you shop online because it's so convenient. And you probably know thieves love to go online too, to try to steal shoppers' credit card information. When you're shopping online, you can start protecting your credit card information by investigating the website you're shopping on. Make sure the online retailer lists a real phone number and a physical address. Read the site's privacy policy and search for reviews and ratings of the retailer. You can read more about safe shopping online at STCU's financial education blog. Go to stcumoney.org.
Here's a simple way to stay connected on the go. Join KHQ on Facebook and Twitter and be a part of the conversation. Just like KHQ Local News on Facebook or follow us on Twitter before your next stop. Experience why more people follow KHQ Local News than any other station in the Inland Northwest. Be the first to know about breaking news, weather, and all the stories creating a social media swirl. Sign up, sound off, stay connected. KHQ Local News. Right now. Right now. Right now. Right now.